Welcome back to Holistic Moms. I'm your host, Shan Wright, and I am a recovering perfectionist. And I have been wanting to talk about this topic for quite some time because I believe you can relate, but it's been something I've just kind of shut out of my life. Like, I've done away with the spirit of perfectionism and I've been free from it, and I don't want to address it anymore. But we have to address these things that can be helpful and encouraging to others. And I think that this topic will help you and encourage you in your anxiety. So, do you know, is perfectionism contributing to your anxiety? You know you are not perfect, but that doesn't mean these feelings of and thoughts of shoulda, coulda, woulda, been better, did better aren't breeding worry, anxiety, and affecting your everyday. I'm going to share with you how it was affecting my life and ways to know if you are there too, and what to do so you can live in hope, grace, and mercy instead. Let's go. Hey mama, are you stressed by the lack of time in the day to do all the things? Are you feeling disconnected from God, your husband, and even your kids because patience and presence seem out of reach? Do you want a healthier body, mind, spirit, and home, but overwhelmed in where to start? Hey, I'm Shan Wright, daughter of the king, wife, mom to 4, RN, wellness coach, and I know very well what it feels like to want to live well, but about to lose it with my very blessed full life. After realizing I can't pour from an empty cup, I tracked my way to whole body wellness and so much peace. If you are ready to cancel the stressed out life, learn tactical, intentional strategies as a mom wearing many hats, find more peace, confidence, and joy raising kingdom kids, then listen in. Come on, mama, together we got this. Really, God's got this. So go heat up that coffee again and turn your listening ears on. Let's chat. I want to start by saying, I get it. I see you. I've been there, and I have worked through this perfectionism and this mindset of negative expectations and thoughts and critical thoughts on myself, and have seen how they have contributed to my anxiety. Found freedom from all of it. I walked with God through tools and strategies and journaling and prayer and consistent action to defeat the spirit of perfectionism. So friend, I know what it feels like, and I know what to do to get on the other side of it, and I can help you. This is something that we can work on in my coaching and my wellness accountability coaching. If you have a feeling that this perfectionism and this mindset of being perfect is underlying your problems and your stress and your anxiety, then please book me for a coaching session at theshanwright.com. And maybe you're still not sure. So lean into this episode, take a listen, and hear how this might be playing and contributing in your anxiety, and how you can get rid of it and how you can be done with it for good. So if you are sick of avoiding, procrastinating, wanting to get everything right and perfect and good all the time, and that leading to anxiety and pressure and expectations, then you are the perfect candidate for my coaching. Go again to theshanwright.com/coaching and book me for a call. If you are unsure, and that sounds maybe like you a little bit, but you're still unsure, you can always email me at hello@theshanwright.com. And we could talk about it, and we can see if it would be a good fit for you. Okay, but now let's lead into this episode, and you can see if, this coaching would benefit me, because this is me. I actually wore this badge of honor growing up. I am a perfectionist. I have perfect attendance. My parents say I was the perfect kid. I get almost perfect grades. And when I didn't feel perfect in something, I would try really, really hard to be really good at it, like sports, friendship, a sibling, a student. But of course, I wasn't perfect at any of it, and I was constantly living under this pressure to be so. I shared this story before, but when I was in high school and my mom asked me, Shannon, where is your joy? you just seem like there's no joy left inside of you. And the truth was, I was so anxious inside, but I was trying to be perfect at everything. I was putting on this perfectionism mask, and I was struck by her comment like, great, now I have to go find joy too. And I have to be great and perfect at being joyful at the same time I'm trying to do everything else. And her asking me that actually brought on more pressure and more anxiety. And I recently heard this John Eldridge quote: take the pressure off, because pressure kills everything it touches. It kills relationships, it kills vacations, it kills connection, it kills joy. And if we take the pressure off, you will find more joy. I really resonated with that because I know anxiety kills joy. And I know that when you have pressure, it's from these expectations and this perfectionism that's there. And it's bringing on this pressure to be perfect. And so I really was like, wow, that is exactly what has happened throughout my life. This is also what set off my postpartum anxiety when I felt like I was overwhelmed with trying to be the perfect mom to 2 toddlers and a newborn, the perfect wife, the perfect housewife and homemaker, and having the perfect house. And all these things brought on so much pressure that resulted in an anxiety attack. Not only in that moment did I want to be perfect in all those ways, but I wanted those relationships, those people to recognize it too. I wanted my babies and my toddlers to recognize, wow, she is the perfect mom. And I wanted my husband to say, wow, she's doing all these things perfectly all at the same time. And she's loving me as I need to be loved. And I just love her so much. She's perfect. Like, I wanted these relationships in my life to recognize all this work and intention that I was putting forth. And so we want to be good. We want to be right, but we also want others to recognize it. And when someone sees how hard I'm working and how I'm doing a good job, and they believe the best about me, and when they can verbalize this even better, it means so much to me. That's why I think I lean into the 5 languages, words of affirmation, because when someone can recognize that I'm doing a good job and tell me. I used to tell my husband, yeah, my love language is words of affirmation, but don't just tell me I'm beautiful. Don't just tell me you love me. That's not what I need to hear. It's specific words of affirmation. I need the perfect words of affirmation. I need you to tell me, wow, I saw what you did here, and that is really good, and that is really helpful for that child, and you really did great. And I see you, and I know that you worked really hard at that. Or something in work that I did, and they congratulate me like with honest, like they really know what happened, and they saw all the work that I put into it and the result that came, and they honored me for that. Like, it has to be detailed and specific, not just I love you. I remember telling him that, and sweet husband of mine put Post-it notes everywhere of words of affirmation for me. And I've kept them up everywhere because he tries so hard to follow in this perfectionism that and this pressure that I'm putting on myself and him. And he also struggles with it too. So it's really interesting how we have come to be. But at the same time, I know why we are a couple, because when I was looking for a mate and a spouse, I was looking for someone that was good, a good person. And what matters to me is someone's intentions, and that they have a good heart, and they want right in the world, and they want things to be good and right. And that's what he wants. So I can see how we ended up together, because we both have the same, I describe it as we have a same viewpoint on life. Like, our ideals of life match up because we both want things to be right and good. And that's not a bad thing. And so hear me, Mom. I see you, and I know you want your kids to be good, and you want your house to be clean, and you want your marriage to be great. And those aren't bad things, but it's what we do and how we handle it when those aren't good and perfect, because they won't always be. A criticism that I get as being a former perfectionist is that I can't take criticism, and I can't hear critical thoughts from others and critique because I will get so defensive. And I've been told this, and this is in motherhood too. And it comes back to that because I don't see that person wanting the best for me. If I knew that they wanted the best for me, and that is why they were coming at me with this critical comment, and I knew their heart, and they knew my heart, and they understood my heart and where I'm coming from, then I wouldn't be defensive. And I remember this reminds me of a story in motherhood when my sweet 3 or 4-year-old oldest child, who also has some perfectionism tendencies, asked me to cut a tag out of her shirt. And so I grabbed some scissors and started towards her shirt. And she freaked out, jumped back, screamed, cried, had just this meltdown, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I got so defensive, and I was like, how dare you think that I'm going to hurt you? Don't you know that I am your mother and I would never hurt you? I am cutting out your tag that you asked me to do. My heart intentions are to cut your tag out. I never would harm you with these scissors. And the fact that she thought in her little 4-year-old brain that I was going to hurt her, that hurt me so much. And I felt so misunderstood by my own child. And I know, and it has not been the last time that's happened. And it will not be the last time you are misunderstood by your children and the people that are close to you, and they don't understand your intentions. They don't understand your heart. And I know. And all we want is people to believe the best about us, because that is what's going on inside. We are trying hard. We're trying to do right, be good. And we get more anxious by trying. And when people don't understand that, resentment builds and defensiveness builds. And so, friend, I see you. I get it. I know you. And I know you have the best intentions. So even though it comes across as being stressed out mess sometimes, angry, defensive, rude, anxious, I know where it's coming from. And it's coming from a heart that wants good, so much good, too much good sometimes. So I want to address that and what you can do, and so you can have hope and grace for yourself and mercy. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this topic again for quite some time. And I actually had it as an episode, coming up episode all through the month of August. It just got getting pushed back. And then I knew I was going to record it this morning. And yesterday I clicked on a podcast episode from, every so often I will go to the podcast Whoa, That's Good from Sadie Robertson Huff. And she has some really amazing interviews on there. And she also struggles with anxiety, has her whole life, and now in parenthood. And so she had an interview with Sissy Goff, who is an amazing counselor. And I knew it was about anxiety, and I knew I had to listen to it. Well, don't you know, she addressed perfectionism a ton on that episode and talked about so much stuff that hit home for me. And I was like, okay, my husband needs to listen to this book. I got it on audio. It's available. It's out there right now. It's called The Worry-Free Parent. I have read her book, The Worry-Free Mom, or it's called Raising Worry-Free Girls. So it's for a mom. The other book that goes along with it is the workbook Braver, Stronger, Smarter, which I've addressed before on here and have for my daughter, and we're going through that book together. And she is just amazing because she is so much like, she's a perfectionist herself. And so she gets it too. And so I pulled a lot of what I heard in that episode and what I read in her book already, because I got it right away. And I pulled a lot for what I'm going to say and the encouragement I'm going to bring for the rest of this episode. So if you want to know where it's coming from the Worry-Free Parent book by Sissy Goff. Highly recommend you go grab that. But here are some things that I want to give you as ways that you can stop letting perfectionism contribute to your anxiety and killing your joy. Okay, so number one is first admit that it's there. Have you admitted yet throughout these first 15 minutes that you are also a perfectionist or have perfectionism tendencies? I don't like to define people or identify people as something. So whereas I used to identify as I'm a perfectionist, that's not the kingdom identity God gave me. That is spirit of perfectionism reigning in my life, and I needed to cancel that, rebuke it, renounce it, and walk in freedom and grace. And so that's what I want for you. So don't identify as something, but you can say that I have these tendencies to be a high achiever, have it all together all the time, get things done fast and right and good, be a producer of things, hardworking, trustworthy, strong, fearful, critical. Like you have these things inside of you and you know they come up, or maybe you've been described as that. So you can see, yeah, I have been described as those words. And so, yeah, I probably do lean towards this. So I do think most of my listeners have tendencies of this and fall into this because we all want to be good moms. I know that. So first you have to admit that it's there and that there is this issue, right? Then admit failure. You have to know that failure is not the end of the world and that when you do mess up, when you do something wrong, you are not the worst person out there. You're not the worst mom ever. And it's okay to fail because when we fail, we can learn. We can learn lessons in our failures, and failures are teaching us something. So I want you to think, where have I failed this week? I want you to journal and talk to God about it. Write down all the feelings that are attached, the thoughts that are attached. Like, why did you think you failed at that thing? What did it make you feel when you failed at that thing? And then ask him, what do you say about this, God? And what do I do about it? So I want you to journal with God about your quote unquote failures. Number 2 is breaking up with the shame. You know those books that you read that just stay with you no matter how many years ago? Well, I once read this book called Grace for the Good Girl by Emily P. Freeman, and it just read me. Like, I read that book and was like, wow, we are the same person. And she really pointed out a lot of things about shame. And shame is the enemy's game. He started that game in the garden, and he will continue to do it with women especially. I just feel forever. And she talked about that in the book and how we need to say no to shame and no to feeling that, because God doesn't want us to feel that. Jesus didn't die on the cross for us to continue to feel shame and guilt for all our sins and all the things that we do wrong and continue to strive for perfection. He died out of grace. He wanted to give us grace. So we have to accept it and accept it often. And so no one is asking us to be the perfect parent. No one is asking you to be the perfect mom. There aren't any parent police out there. I once heard, as a young mom, a quote from a friend as she was already a mom that really resonated with me and stuck. She could see that I was struggling with this thought of perfectionism as a young mom. And so she said, kids and babies learn through repetition and consistency. If you mess up once or even 10 times that day, it's just one day and you can try again tomorrow. There's always tomorrow. And if you don't consistently scream at them all day, every day, it's gonna be okay. To feel the shame that you yelled is only going to produce more anxiety and kill the joy more. And this quote from this friend correlates with a research study that says caregivers only need to get it right 50% of the time when responding to baby's needs for attachment to have a positive effect on the baby. We know that babies need safety, to feel seen, loved, attached, and we only need to get it right 50% of the time. So stop trying for 100%. It does not matter in the grand scheme of things. You don't get a report or a grade on parenting and you are not striving for 100%. Really, only need to strive for 50%. So let's, do a happy medium. 75%. I don't know, but just know that when you mess up, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Don't stress about it, laying your head on the pillow, all the things that you did wrong. I have a prayer that I also pray is, Lord, let them remember the things that I did right stay with them today. Let them forget all the things that I did wrong in my humanity, in my imperfection, in my anxiety. Let them forget them. Let them not stick. But let the things that are truth and the ways that will help them, let those things stick. Okay? Which brings me to point number 3. Babies and kids have grace built in. So number 3 is accept grace. Accept the grace that God gives you freely, that your kids give you, that your husband gives you. It's there for the taking. So also in that book, Grace for the Good Girl, of course, it's a lot about grace and how we need to accept the grace. And when we don't accept the grace that Jesus Christ poured out on the cross for us, it is saying, you know what, God, that death on the cross isn't even good enough for me. It's not good enough for my sins. And I know that's not your heart, and I know that's not my heart, but that is what our anxiety and our striving and our not accepting grace is saying. In Galatians 2:17-18, Paul says, in the Message version, have some of you noticed that we are not yet perfect? No great surprise, right? If I was trying to be good, I would be rebuilding the same old barn that I tore down. I would be acting as a pretender. Where are you stuck because you are trying to rebuild the same things and get different perfect results? You can't move on or move forward because it's just not right. Where are you just trying to be perfect in your life and not accepting the grace for the situation, the scenario for you? And we only know grace to the degree that we know we're sinners. So go to God humbly, ask him, show me in your kind way that you are my sins, and then confess them to him, accept the grace for those sins, and recognize what Jesus did on the cross for you and accept that grace. And you may have to do this every day and be reminded of the grace that Jesus has for you and accept it in your brain, in your heart. And that's going to be a consistent thing as you continue to say no to perfectionism. It's going to be something you'll have to do on the daily as you rewire that brain. Which brings me to point number 4. We've got to replace critical thoughts with truth. Remember, our thoughts come out in our words, and we might be having these critical thoughts about ourselves as perfectionists, but those critical, angry thoughts come out onto others too. Even though it's rooted in critique about us, anxiety manifests into anger, and we have talked about this. When I'm mad at myself for being late and not being on time for a commitment, I start yelling at my kids to get their shoes on because they aren't doing it at the speed of light. And I start getting mad at them and yelling. And we have to recognize, okay, where is this stemming from? It might just look like I'm yelling at my kids to get their shoes on because we're late. I have to dig down into my belief system. Where did that start? Where did these negative expectations and this pressure to be perfect, to always be on time, to not be a second late, to not have anyone wait on me ever, where did that start? Because you are not perfect. You are going to be late. You are going to have someone waiting on you. Sometimes you are going to miss a commitment. You are going to mess up. Where did it start? We have to dig up the negative thoughts and beliefs, bring them into the light, rebuke them, say, no, I'm not a bad mom. I'm a good mom who is more than enough in Christ. His grace covers me. Recognize the lie and then replace it with truth. So when you mess up, what word is coming out of your mouth? This will actually give a good indication as to your thoughts and your beliefs about said mess up. So when you mess up, maybe you drop something. Are you saying, shoot, I just dropped that again. I just messed up again. Or why did I do that? Shoot. Or are you saying, oops, uh-oh, man. Like, how is your response? What is coming out of your mouth? When you can recognize that, it will give, again, that indication as to what beliefs you are thinking. Because when you say shoot, that is coming from shame. And that is coming from, I messed up again. I did wrong. I did it wrong. I am bad. I am wrong. But when you say oops or uh-oh, that is saying, I made a mistake. And we learned this. We learned this in the episode with Wendy Speak, and I learned this from her in her books. But when a child does that, when a child messes up, it's really, really good to respond with, uh-oh, because that doesn't shame them, and we don't want to shame our kids. And we've talked about shame is the enemy's game. And so when we go to our kids and say, oh, why'd you do that? Or man, or how did you do that again? Why do you always do that? That is shaming them. But when we can say, uh-oh, or once they're a little older, oops, you messed up, or that was a mistake, that was an accident, that helps them see that it is okay to mess up sometimes. So when we do it for ourselves and we mess up and we say, oops, our kids will say, oh, look, mommy messed up, or she dropped that, or she hurt herself. And it's okay to mess up sometimes because she didn't react mad at herself. She didn't shame herself. She actually just said, uh-oh, it was an accident. And so we have to fail in front of them. They are learning from us in every way. And our anxiety is breeding their anxiety. And so if we recognize our mess ups as accidents and mistakes and that we are going to mess up, they too will recognize theirs the same. So next time you do mess up or drop something or trip or fall or whatever, I want you to recognize the words that come out of your mouth. I want you to write it down. And then I want you to journal with God about it. Why did I say that? Where's that coming from? Why did I get so mad that I messed up? And see what happens. See what he says. Because you are enough, Mom. And this is probably the lie that I hear the most is I'm not good enough. And we put this internal pressure to meet these expectations of being enough on ourselves and others. And we want to be perfect and we try really hard to be the perfect mom. But we have to take that pressure off because when you do, you will find more joy. Isn't motherhood supposed to be joyful? I mean, kids, babies are pure joy. And sometimes we miss the joyful moments because we are wrapped up in our anxiety. And that is coming from our perfectionism. So you are more than enough. You are doing enough as a parent, a mom, a wife, a human. And believing that you are is trusting God in the process. He is the only perfect one, and he knows the future. And we can live in this perfectionism mess of striving and performing and stressing about outcomes, or we can trust him that he is God and we are not. So friend, I will end like my friend Terry Lee Cobble says, he is where the joy is. Now, I do want to recap these steps for you, and I do want to thank you for putting up with my voice today as I'm recovering from illness. But to recap these steps as to how you can recognize that, hey, this perfectionism is contributing to my anxiety, how you can stop it and get your joy back. Okay, so number one, admit the failures. Admit when you mess up and pay attention to the words that come out of your mouth. Break up with the shame and know that it's the enemy's game and you are not falling for it anymore and you say no to it. And 3, accept the grace that God has for you in that. Accept his death on the cross for all your sins and all your mess ups and all your imperfection. And 4, meditate on truth. Replace those critical thoughts of yourself and others and replace them with truth and meditate on that truth day and night consistently so that you can overcome this perfectionism spirit. Okay, and we can do that together. That is hard work. That is hard work to do alone. So know that I have this belief work that we can do together. I know how to dig down into those thoughts and help you get to the bottom of them and find out where this all started and how you can replace these negative pressures, expectations, inner vows, agreements that you have made from I don't know how long ago, and replace them with truth and rewire your brain consistently together. It's going to take consistent action, and that comes with accountability. So let me help you. I will hold you accountable to the work. It's hard work, sis, but we can do it together. Go to theshanwright.com/coaching and let's do this work together. Okay, that's all I have. I pray this blessed you, and I pray the God of peace over you. Shalom, shalom. Hey, Wellness Warrior, I pray that blessed you. And if so, it would bless me big if you would write a 5-star review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Not only would this make me super happy, but it will allow for others to find this show too. Also, I love to chat over on Instagram, so make sure to take a screenshot, share to your Instagram stories, and tag me at @theshanwright so I can see it and we can keep chatting and bring other moms to chat with us. Until we get to chat again, mama friend, may the Lord's face shine upon you and give you peace.